final stretch of the path is not earth, but ancient, uneven flagstone. Each slab is a different shade of gray, worn smooth at its center by a millennium of arrivals and departures. Your boots, dusty and tired, meet the stone with a soft, final scrape. You stop. Before you, the castle is not built upon the hill, it is the hill, given intention and form. The last ember of sunset has cooled behind its tallest tower, leaving the sky a deep, fathomless indigo. A single star ignites directly above the highest parapet, a solitary sentinel answering the stone's silent call. You let your pack slide from your shoulder. It meets the ground with a muted thud, a punctuation mark at the end of your journey sentence. Physical weight lifts, but in its place settles a deeper, quieter fatigue, the fatigue of a quest completed, of motion finally ceased. Your legs hum with the memory of miles, but your mind grows still. You are here. The air here is different. It is weight in memory. It moves not as a wind, but as a slow, cool exhalation from the stone itself. It flows over the battlements, down the vast, shadowed walls, and wraps around you. It carries scents untouched by the world outside, the damp, mineral breath of deep rock, the iron tang of cold, still water in the moat below, the faint, sweet melancholy of moss and wood rot from forgotten corners. You inhale, and the journey's dust leaves your lungs. You exhale, and your breath mingles with the castle's own. Your eyes begin to trace the story written in stone. The gatehouse is a colossal jaw of dark granite, its teeth the wicked, descending spikes of the iron portcullis frozen forever in a silent snarl. Behind it, the oak gates stand like the covers of a giant storybook. They are vast, each plank wider than the span of your arms. They are not flat surfaces, but landscapes. Deep, vertical fissures tell of centuries of rain seeking a way in. Velvety moss clings to the northern corners, a living, green shadow. The iron bindings bands as thick as a strong man as for armor slow motion. Painting of decay, black near the massive. Rust-stained rivets bleeding into rich burnt oranges and finally to a soft powdery green, where moisture forever weeps from the stone above the gate. Carved into the keystone of the immense arch, a heralded crest is being gently erased by time. The details are soft, rounded by relentless wind and rain. Perhaps it was a lion rampant, perhaps a griffin. Now it is simply a shape, a symbol returning to the rock from which it was born. Watching all who approach with the same serene, stony gaze, silence settles around you. But this is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of immense age. It is a dense, velvety quiet that absorbs small noises and gives them meaning. Within it, you hear the subtle epilogue of the day, the distant, liquid plonk of a water droplet falling from a gutter into the moat. Paper dry skitter tick of a lone leaf pushed by a phantom breeze across the stones. A faint, almost electrical hum that might be the wind finding a hairline crack in a tower 100 feet above, or the very earth humming beneath the weight of history. You stand there, a small, transient figure before the immutable. The castle does not acknowledge you. It simply is, and in its monumental indifference, there is a profound peace. You are not required here. You are permitted. The tension that has knotted your shoulders since you first saw the castle as silhouette on the horizon begins, thread by thread, to loosen. You take 3 steps forward. Gravel crunches absurdly loud in the swallowing quiet. You are close enough now to touch the gate. You raise your right hand slowly. Your fingertips hover an inch from the oak. The wood is cold. Not the cold of winter, but the deep, steady cold of something that has never known the sun, a cold that has seeped up from the bedrock over 1,000 years. You can feel it radiating against your skin. Your hand moves to the iron knocker. It is a massive ring, clenched in the jaws of a stone lion whose muzzle is worn smooth by countless hands. Metal is shockingly, bitingly cold. It steals the warmth from your palm in an instant. You pause. This is the last moment of the outside world. The last moment of open sky, of unanswered questions, of being a traveler on a road. You close your eyes, take one more deep breath of the twilight air, and let your hand pull the ring forward. It moves with a resistance that feels less like mechanics and more like waking a deep sleeper. Then it strikes. The sound is not loud, but immense. A deep, resonant doom that seems to originate in the heart of the gate and vibrate outward through the stone of the archway, through the flagstones beneath your feet, up into the bones of your legs. It does not echo. It is absorbed, digested by the sheer mass around it. The single note hangs in the air, then is gently taken by the gathering dark. You wait. The wind tugs at the hem of your cloak. The The star above the tower winks. From somewhere high up and to the left, a loose piece of metal of fitting, a broken hinge taps rhythmically against stone. Tap, tap, tap. It is a slow, patient metronome measuring the passage of seconds. Then, from within, an answer. A sound of stone grinding on stone. A heavy, mechanical clunk that reverberates through the ground. Then the slow, shuddering Protestant squeak of ancient unoiled iron. Portcullis is rising, not quickly, but with the inevitable, jerking slowness of a great beast rousing from sleep. Each lift of the chain is a groan, a sigh. You watch the deadly iron teeth ascend, inch by inch, disappearing into the black slit of the gatehouse's throat. Behind it, a seam of darkness appears between the two giant oak doors. It widens. With a profound, vast groan that you feel in your chest, the right-hand door begins to swing inward. No light spills out, only a deeper darkness and a slow, cool draft that smells of stone dust. Old smoke and time, the doorway is open. The darkness beyond the gate is not empty, it is a solid, velvety substance that seems to press back against the twilight at your back. You cross the threshold. The temperature drops instantly. A tangible curtain of cool, still air falling over you. The scent outside of damp earth and open sky is severed, replaced by an interior aroma that is complex and ancient. Cold stone, the ghost of wood smoke from fires extinguished decades ago. Dry papery smell of settled dust, and underneath it all a faint mineral dampness like the breath of a deep cave. Your first footstep inside echoes. Not a sharp, immediate sound, but a soft, spreading one. The sound wave travels away from you, hitting unseen walls and vaulted ceilings, returning as a softened, layered whisper that takes seconds to fully die away. You stand still, letting your eyes adjust. The little light from the dying sky outside slants through the open door, painting a narrow, dusty gold path on the floor before being consumed by the gloom. Slowly, shapes emerge from the black. You are in a gatehouse passage. Barrel-vaulted tunnel of immense stone blocks. Ahead, at its end, is a second, smaller archway leading into a vast space. You walk toward it, your footsteps now careful and measured on the smooth, worn stone. The air grows stiller, heavier with silence. You pass through the second archway, and the space opens up not with light, but with volume. You have entered the great hall. You cannot see its ends, but you can feel them. The ceiling is lost in shadow, a black void above you that seems to draw the breath from your lungs. The walls retreat into darkness on either side. You are a tiny island in a sea of stone, but it is not pitch black. Far ahead, at what you sense is the hall's opposite end, a single source of light glows. It is a hearth, large enough to roast an ox, and within it, a fire has been laid, but not yet lit. Instead, a dozen or so torches and wrought iron sconces are spaced along the walls, each burning with a low, guttering flame. They do not illuminate, they punctuate the darkness. Each torch creates a small, restless pool of flickering orange light that dances over the stone immediately around it, making the shadows beyond seem to breathe and sway. The overall effect is one of profound, rhythmic, slow, visual heartbeat in the center of the stone giant's chest. The soundscape here is a masterpiece of subtlety. The dominant sound is the soft, constant hiss whisper of the torches, the sound of flame-consuming air and pitch. Beneath that, a new sound, water, a slow, patient drip, drip, drip from somewhere high in the unseen ceiling, striking a stone floor or perhaps a shallow puddle with a clear, musical blink. Its rhythm is irregular, hypnotic. You walk forward, drawn toward the cold hearth. Your footsteps, even in soft boots, are audible. But here, in this cavernous space, they don't just echo, they multiply. The sound of your heel striking stone is followed a split second later by a faint, identical sound from the left wall, then another from the right, then a softer, more diffuse return from the far end of the hall. It is as if a ghostly retinue is walking with you, step for step, a respectful half-pace behind. The stone underfoot is smooth, worn into gentle undulations by generations of passage. You pass a massive wooden table long enough to seat 50, its surface stained dark by time and ale. Your fingers brush its edge as you pass. It is dry and cool. Further on, a tapestry hangs on the wall, swallowed by shadow as you pass a torch. Its flickering light reveals a glimpse of faded color, a hint of a hunter's green tunic. Pair of a horse's flank before the image is swallowed again by darkness. You reach the hearth. It is a yawning mouth of soot-blackened stone, wide enough to stand in. The air here is still and smells powerfully of old ash. A great iron spit stands idle. pile of thick, rough-cut logs is stacked neatly to the side. You place a hand on the hearthstone. It is cold, but holds the memory of heat like a sun-warmed rock hours after sunset. You turn and look back the way you came. Your entrance arch is now just a dim rectangle of slightly less dark gray. The torches create a winding path of dancing light back toward it. The hall feels both immense and intimate, a public space turned private by night and silence. The high, distant drip of water continues its slow song. A torch nearby pops, sending a tiny spark drifting down to expire on the stone floor. You find a stone bench built into the wall near the hearth dot you sit. The stone is unforgivingly hard and cold, but you don't mind. The fatigue of arrival is fully upon you now, a heavy, welcome cloak. You lean back against the wall, which is slightly curved. You look up into the darkness where the vaulted ceiling must be. You listen. The hall listens back. The torches hiss. The water drips. Your own breathing, slow and deep, becomes part of the ambient sound. The echoes of your movement have faded. You are no longer an intruder. You are a guest within the stillness, the immense protective weight of the stone walls, the centuries of silence. Held within them, the gentle, persistent life of the torches and the dripping water it all conspires to press the worries of the outside world flat to drain the urgency from your blood. Your eyelids grow heavy, not with sleep yet, but with a deep, waking calm. You have entered. You are safe. The castle's great stone heart beats slowly around you, a rhythm older than kingdoms. A lullaby written in cold rock and flickering light. A subtle current of slightly warmer air beckons you from a low, arched doorway to the left of the great hearth. It is not heat, but the absence of the hall's deep, subterranean chill. You rise from the stone bench, your movement slow and quiet, and move toward the arch. The doorway is not tall. You must duck your head slightly to pass through. As you do, the scent changes dramatically. The damp stone and old dust are overlaid with richer, warmer notes, the resinous perfume of seasoned pine logs, the faint, sweet tang of beeswax, and underneath it all, the dry, comforting smell of wool and worn leather. You straighten up inside a smaller, lower-ceiling chamber. This is not a hall for crowds, but a room for presence, a private solar. And here, in its center, a fire is alive. It burns in a smaller, more refined fireplace than the cavernous hearth in the hall. The flames are not roaring, but resting a bed of glowing embers the color of a deep sunset. With gentle, amber-tipped flames lastly licking at the thick logs, the light it casts is entirely different from the torches. It is a warm, pulsing, living light that pushes the shadows into the corners of the room and makes the stone walls themselves seem to glow from within. The light dances on every surface in a slow, mesmerizing rhythm. The sound is the room's true soul. A soft, constant crackle pop provides the bass rhythm, the sound of sap pockets bursting deep within the wood. Over this, a gentle hiss whisper as the flames consume the air, and occasionally a more profound settling sigh as a log shifts, sending a small cascade of sparks swirling up into the dark throat of the chimney before winking out. It is a symphony of consumption and comfort, a sound that speaks directly to a primal part of your brain, whispering of safety, warmth, and rest. You step closer, drawn by the heat. It radiates out in a gentle, visible shimmer, warping the air between you and the stone mantle. You hold out your hands, palms toward the flames. The heat is not aggressive, it is an embrace. It soaks into your skin, chases the last of the journey's chill from your bones, and loosens muscles you hadn't even realized were clenched. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the fire's warmth paint orange patterns on the inside of your eyelids. When you open them, you take in the room. The floor here is not bare stone, but wide, dark oak planks, worn smooth and shiny in a path from the door to the hearth. As you shift your weight, they respond with soft, familiar creaks, not the sharp complaints of new wood, but the deep, vocal groans of timber that has settled into its shape over centuries. Each step is answered by the floor, a quiet conversation between your weight and its memory. The room is sparsely furnished, but each piece feels essential, a large, high-backed chair upholstered in faded tapestry faces the fire, its seat hollowed by generations of use. A heavy wool rug, its patterns muted by time, lies before it. A small, sturdy table holds a simple clay cup and an unlit beeswax candle in a pewter holder. On the mantelpiece, a clock of polished brass and dark wood sits silent, its hands frozen at some forgotten hour, its presence a monument to time that no longer needs to be measured here. You move to the room's single, narrow window. It is not glass, but thick, uneven panes of horn. Sit and lead. The world outside is reduced to a blur of deeper darkness, but as you stand there, a gentle gust of wind presses against the outer wall. It finds the imperfect seal around the window frame and enters as a soft, almost musical whistle, a low, steady note that rises and falls with the wind's intensity outside. It is not a cold draft, but a breath of the living night, a reminder that the world continues beyond these warm stone walls. You turn back to the fire and sink into the waiting chair. It envelops you. The tapestry fabric is rough against your neck, but the cushion gives way perfectly. The chair creaks softly, a sound of welcome. From this vantage point, the fire is the center of the universe. You watch the flames. There is no narrative, no need for thought. You simply watch the endless, non-repeating dance, a blue ghost at a log's core, a tongue of gold lapping at a blackened edge, a shower of microscopic sparks rising on a thermal like golden dust. The sounds layer themselves around you. The fires crackle. The floor's occasional groan as it adjusts to the changing temperature. The wind's steady whistle at the window, your own breathing, which has slowed to match the fire's rhythm. The combination is hypnotic. Your gaze softens. The details of the room, the grain of the mantle, the weave of the rug, the shadowed carvings on the chair blur into a warm, impressionist painting of safety. This room is a sanctuary within a sanctuary. The great hall offered awe and scale. This room offers intimacy and warmth. The fire does not just heat the air. It seems to heat time itself, slowing it down, stretching this single, perfect moment into something that feels eternal. The cares that followed you through the gate, the weight of the journey, the slight anxiety of the unknown, they all burn away in this gentle heat, turning to smoke and rising up the chimney, leaving only a profound, wordless peace in the warm, crackling, whispering dark. Leaving the whispering warmth of the fireplace room feels like leaving a living embrace. But a new scent pulls you onward, a scent both earthy and comforting. You follow a narrow, downward sloping corridor. The stone walls are lined with simple sconces holding stubs of tallow candles that burn with a steady, dim, yellowish flame, the smoke adding a faint, greasy note to the air. Temperature drops slightly again, but the cold is different here. It's a dry cellar cold. Not the damp chill of the great hall. The corridor ends at a heavy, iron-bound door slightly ajar. You push it open and the scent blooms into full richness. This is the castle kitchen, and though it sleeps now, its memory of the day's labors is vivid in the air. The room is vast and low-ceilinged, dominated at its heart by a fire pit that is not a fireplace but a sunken trench in the floor, lined with brick, now holding only a deep bed of gray-white ash. Above it hangs a complicated arrangement of iron chains and hooks, from which dangle a few blackened pots and a colossal cauldron big enough to bathe in. The air smells of 100 forgotten meals, the ghost of roasted meat, tang of yesterday's onion and garlic, the sourdough fragrance of rising bread now baked and gone, the sharp vinegar of pickling barrels and the underlying permanent scent of wood smoke and rendered fat soaked into the very stones. You step inside. Your first footfall meets not solid stone, but a floor of packed earth and rushes. Dried and brittle underfoot, they crunch softly with each step, a sound like walking on autumn leaves. The room is not silent. From a far corner, where a stone sink is set into the wall beneath a shuttered window, comes the slow, patient drip, drip, drip of a leaking tap, each drop hitting the shallow water in the sink with a clear, liquid plink. It is a slower, more isolated rhythm than the hall's distant drip. A solitary metronome in the sleeping kitchen. You move further in, your eyes adjust to the gloom, lit only by a single, guttering candle on a massive central worktable. The table is a slab of scarred oak, stained with a kaleidoscope of spills dark wine, green herb juices, purple berry stains, and the pale rings left by wet bowls. Your fingertips brush its surface. It is cool and smooth, polished by endless scrubbing in use along the walls. Shelves hold the kitchen's silent orchestra. Earthenware crocks and glazed ceramic jars, their contents hidden but hinting at pickles, grains, and dried legumes. Wooden barrels stand in rows, some swollen tight, others with bands slightly loose. You lean close to one marked with a faded chalk symbol. From within comes a faint, almost imperceptible fizz pop, the sound of fermentation, of life slowly, invisibly continuing in the dark. It is a tiny, secret sound. You turn to a rack where cooking implements hang, heavy iron ladles, skimmers with perforated bowls, and long-handled forks. You gently tap one ladle with your fingernail. It swings and the metal clinks softly against its neighbor, a dull, muted chime that hangs briefly in the thick air. The sound seems to awaken other memories of sound. You could almost hear the echo of the day. As bustle, the rhythmic thump-thump-thump of a cleaver on a butcher S-block, now still. The sizzling hiss of fat in a pan, now cold. The low, bubbling glug of a stew in the great cauldron, now empty. In the hearth, a large black pot still sits on a trivet over the cold ashes. You lift its lid. The inside is dark, but the smell that rises is rich and complex, the concentrated essence of bone broth herbs. And long, slow cooking, you replace the lid with a soft clink of iron on iron. Beneath the worktable, you notice a woven basket peering in. You see it is half full of root vegetables, pale turnips, and knobby potatoes, still dusted with dry soil. They are cool to the touch, smelling of the earth they came from, a fresh, grounded note amid the ghosts of cooked food. You find a low stool by the cold hearth and sit. The quiet here is dense and nourishing. The dripping tap continues its solitary song. A mouse, or perhaps just the settling of the old building, scritches softly somewhere behind the shelves. The single candle on the table flares for a second, then steadies, its flame reflected in the curve of a hanging copper pot. This room speaks of cycles, of raw becoming cooked, of hunger becoming satisfaction, of daily toil and nightly rest. There is no urgency here now, only the deep, satisfied fatigue of work completed. The tools rest, the fire sleeps, the ingredients wait. The atmosphere is one of profound pause. The kitchen is not dead, it is digesting. It is gathering its energy, its sense, its memories to begin again at dawn. The warmth from the fireplace room is a distant memory, but a different kind of warmth fills. You hear the warmth of human necessity met with simple, enduring skill. The silence is not empty, it is full of the echoes of creation, of hands kneading, knives chopping, fire stirring. It is a lullaby of sustenance, a promise that in this stone fortress, the most fundamental human act, the preparing of food, the transforming of the raw earth into nourishment, has been performed for centuries, and will be performed again. You sit in the heart of that cycle, in the quiet between beats, and feel a deep, wordless gratitude for the sleep of this busy, essential place. A narrow, arched doorway in the kitchen's far wall leads not to another room, but to the castle's circulatory system, a secondary corridor, darker and colder than any space you have yet encountered. Comforting, earthy smells of the kitchen are cut off as you pass the threshold, replaced by air that tastes of pure, unmoving stone. This passageway is not meant for ceremony or gathering. It is a vein of utility, connecting the castle's beating heart to its distant limbs. The ceiling is low, forcing you to walk with a slight stoop. The walls are of rough-hewn stone, unfinished and cold to the touch. No torches or candles light the way here. The only illumination is a faint, grayish seepage of moonlight from somewhere far ahead, filtering down a staircase or through a distant arrow slit. You place one hand on the wall to guide yourself. The stone is brutally cold and damp with a thin, slick film of condensation. Your footsteps change. On the kitchen's earthen floor, they were muffled crunches. Here, on the worn stone flags, they are sharper, more distinct, a soft scuff of leather sole, followed by the faint, dry shush of your cloak brushing the wall. Each sound is isolated in the dense, silent air, then swallowed by the darkness ahead and behind. You walk slowly, allowing your eyes to dilate fully. Shapes resolve from the gloom, a barrel stacked on its side, a broom propped in a corner, its twigs splayed out like a dead bird. The corridor bends sharply to the right. As you round the corner, the soundscape transforms. Ahead, the corridor ends at the foot of a spiral staircase, a tight, corkscrewing tube of stone that winds upward into utter blackness. But it is not silent. From high above, perhaps from the very top of some tower, the night wind has found a way in. It does not howl, it sings. It is a low, constant, mournful whistle, a single, unwavering note that seems to vibrate in the cylindrical stone chamber of the stairwell. It is the sound of the castle breathing in its sleep, a deep, sonorous exhalation pulled through a stone lung. You place your foot on the first step. The stone is deeply concave in the center, worn down by centuries of ascents and descents. You begin to climb. The spiral is tight, forcing you to move with a slow, clockwise pivot. Your world narrows to the sensation of the curving wall under your left hand, the edge of each step under your feet, and that constant, haunting whistle of wind from above. The sounds of your climb are intimated and amplified by the stone tube, the click of your heel on the edge of a step, the soft grind of grit underfoot, The quiet, rhythmic brush of your clothing against the central newel post. Your own breathing, slightly heavier now with the effort, echoes softly back at you, a private conversation between your body and the ancient stone. For 20 steps, a sliver of pale light appears high above a moonlit arrow slit, perhaps. The whizzing wind grows slightly louder, its tone shifting as it funnels through the narrow aperture. It becomes less a whistle and more hum, a celestial note trapped in stone. A few steps more, and you feel the draft on your face a cold, clean stream of night air cutting through the stairwell's stagnant chill. You pause on a step, catching your breath. From this halfway point, you can hear other things. Just the wind, but the sounds it carries and creates. The faint, metallic jangling of a loose chain or weather vane on a rooftop far above, tapped by the breeze. A distant, wooden creak that repeats at regular intervals, a shutter swinging on rusty hinges somewhere on an outer wall, and under it all, a deep, almost subauditory groan. The sound of the entire massive stone structure subtly flexing against the night's cooling temperature. A giant shifting its weight in slumber. You look back down the spiraling void you've climbed. The kitchen corridor below is just a pool of deeper black. There is no retreat, only the continued ascent into the sighing dark, or the option to step off at one of the landings you've passed, each marked by a simple wooden door leading deeper into the castle's private chambers. For now, you choose neither. You simply stand on the step, one hand on the cold central column, and listen. This is the castle's hidden music, not the grand, static silence of the hall, nor the friendly crackle of the hearth, but a living, breathing composition of pressure and stone. The wind's hum is the melody, the creaks and groans are the percussion. Your own heartbeat slowing to match the slow, vast rhythms around you is the quiet bass note. This stairwell is a place of transition, of movement suspended. It leads everywhere and nowhere. It is the connective tissue between the castle's warm living rooms and its cold, exposed battlements. And in this moment, poised in its dark heart, you feel suspended between all states, between warmth and cold, safety and exposure, earth and sky. The wind's constant song washes over you, clearing your mind of thought, leaving only the pure sensation of being here now in this ancient, singing stone throat, slowly becoming part of its timeless, nocturnal breath. Descending the spiral stair feels like returning from a windswept cliff to the shelter of a deep cave. You retrace your steps through the narrow service corridor, the haunting whistle of the stairwell fading to a distant memory. A different kind of quiet beckons you now, one that feels dense with captured thought rather than with stone. You find an arched doorway set with a door of dark, aged blackened oak, its surface carved with the faint, worn relief of an open book. The air that seeps from the gap beneath it is utterly still, and carries a scent you didn't know anywhere, a scent that is the very opposite of the kitchen as earthy vitality or the hall, as damp chill, the dry sweet slightly melancholic perfume of old paper leather and dust. You push the door. It swings inward without a sound, its hinges well oiled and silent. You step across the threshold and stop, allowing the atmosphere of the room to settle over you like a fine, intellectual powder. Castle Library is not a grand gallery of books, but a chamber of intimate, accumulated knowledge. It is a rectangular room, its ceiling lower than the great hall, but higher than the solar, lined from floor to a height of 8 feet with dark oak shelves. Each shelf is bowed slightly in the middle from the weight of its contents. The books are not arranged by color or size, but by some personal forgotten system. Their spines are a tapestry of faded hues, oxblood red, forest green, midnight blue, and the pale tan of undyed vellum. Their titles are stamped in flaking gold leaf or penned in elegant, fading ink. Script in languages both familiar and mysterious. Light in the room comes from 2 sources. On a heavy central table of scarred oak, a single, thick beeswax candle burns in a brass holder. Its flame is steady and bright, casting a warm, focused pool of light that illuminates the swirling grain of the wood and the pages of a large, open folio left upon it. The second source is the moon itself. A tall, narrow window, its panes of leaded glass diamond-shaped, allows a shaft of cold silver blue moonlight to slice diagonally across the room, cutting through the candle's golden glow and illuminating millions of dust motes dancing in a silent, eternal ballet. You walk slowly to the center table, your feet on a floor of dark, polished wood that whispers under your soles. The open book before you is not a printed text, but a manuscript. Pages are parchment, thick and slightly irregular. The script is a dense, beautiful hand, lacking slightly brown with age. In the margin, a meticulous illustration shows a delicate, unfamiliar flower, its roots exposed. Each filament painstakingly drawn, you reach out, but stop your fingers just short of touching the page. The contact feels too intimate, too disruptive. Instead, you listen. The library has its own soundscape, a soft symphony of preservation. Most prominent sound is the gentle, constant hiss whisper of the candle flame, cleaner and softer than a torch's hiss. Beneath it, if you listen with your whole being, you can hear the room itself holding its breath. Then, a tiny tick as a fragment of dried wax detaches from the candle and falls to the brass holder. A minute later, a soft, almost imperceptible creak comes from one of the overloaded shelves as the wood adjusts to the night as coolness. You move away from the table, drawn to the walls of books. You run your fingertips along the spines on a middle shelf. The leather is cool and slightly powdery. Some are smooth, some are textured with blind-tooled patterns. Touch disturbs the settled air, and a scent rises not unpleasant, but profoundly old. The tannin of leather, the alkaline smell of parchment, the faint, sweet decay of paper and glue. It is the smell of time captured, of thoughts embalmed in skin and pulp. From a high shelf, a different sound emerges, not a creak, but the softest, driest rustle. It is the sound of a single loose page in a poorly bound volume, stirring in an air current so faint you cannot feel it. FFFTTT, it goes, then is silent. You look up, but see nothing move. It is a ghost of a sound, a secret shared between the books themselves. You find a high-backed, worn leather armchair pushed into a corner. Bathed in the intersection of moonlight and candle glow, you sink into it. The leather groans softly, exhaling a deeper wave of its old scent. The chair embraces you, its arms wide, its back high enough to support your head. From this vantage point, the room feels like a cranial cavity that shelves its walls of memory. The single candle, its flickering consciousness, you let your gaze drift. The dancing dust in the moonbeam becomes hypnotic. The candle flame holds a perfect, teardrop shape. The silent books seem to pulse with a quiet potential energy. This is a room where time has not stopped but has been curated, shelved, and made peaceful. The urgency of discovery is gone, replaced by the deep calm of things known, of wisdom waiting patiently to be remembered, not learned. The pressure of the outside world, the wind, the scale, the history fades here. This chamber is a sanctuary for the mind. The only demands are those of quiet attention. Breathing slows to match the room's respiration, the slow burn of the candle, the occasional sigh of the shelves, the patient, silent vigil of 1,000 unread pages. Thoughts that had buzzed in your head like trapped flies settle, grow still, and then dissipate entirely. You are not thinking, you are being thought by the room. Your presence just another quiet element in its timeless, gentle ecosystem of knowledge and calm. The library holds you, and you let it, dissolving into the profound, wordless peace that exists between one sentence and the next. In the silent, scented dark, the profound, vapory silence of the library feels like a sanctuary you carry with you as you close its silent door. But the castle has another kind of quiet to offer, one not of the mind, but of the body's memory and metal's cold patience. You find a heavy iron-studded door at the end of a short, vaulted passage. This door does not swing easily. It resists, its weight substantial. You lean your shoulder into it, and with a low, gritty groan of wood and iron on stone, it gives way. The air that meets you is shockingly cold, several degrees colder than any room you've entered. It is a dry, metallic cold that seems to leach warmth directly from your skin. The scent is singular and unmistakable, the sharp, clean odor of oiled steel, the duller, earthier smell of cured leather, and the faint, ghostly tang of saltpeter and old sweat. This is the castle's armory. It is a long, narrow chamber, windowless and deep within the fortress's stone heart. The walls are lined not with bookshelves, but with racks and stands of dark, aged oak. And upon these racks, resting in patient slumber, is the castle's strength. Swords of various lengths lie in notched rests, their blades a dull gray in the gloam, their edges catching what little light there is in thin, deadly lines. Spears and halberds stand upright in barrels, their wooden halves smooth from countless grips, their steel heads like dark leaves on metallic stems. Suits of plate armor stand sentinel in corners, empty and postured, their visors down, giving them an anonymous, insect-like stillness. Chainmail hangs on pegs like glistening, metallic shrouds. There is a single source of light, a small, high-oil lamp suspended from the center of the ceiling. By a chain, its Its flame is tiny, enclosed in thick glass, casting a weak, smoky, yellow glow that creates more shadows than it banishes. The room is a tapestry of deep blacks and sharp, reflective highlights. You step inside and the acoustics change instantly. The stone here is bare, without tapestries or rushes to absorb sound. Every small noise is captured, amplified, and given a metallic edge. The soft shush of your cloak feels louder. Your footsteps, a mere whisper in the library, are distinct clicks and scuffs that bounce off the close walls. Approach the nearest rack of swords. You do not touch the blades. Their sleep feels too deep, too dangerous to disturb. But your proximity seems to stir the air. From somewhere in the room comes a sound, a soft, almost musical ting. It is the sound of one piece of metal, perhaps a loose rivet on a hanging piece of armor or the very tip of a suspended sword, vibrating imperceptibly. A second later, from another corner, a faint answering tink. It is as if the metal is talking in its sleep, whispering secrets of old battles in a language of harmonics. You move down the line. Your elbow brushes against a hanging outwork of chainmail. It does not clatter, but it shifts, its thousands of interlocked rings sighing against one another with a sound like a gentle metallic rain. S-H-H-H-dash-dash-click. The sound fades slowly, ring by ring, settling back into place. Wooden rack holds a row of shields, their faces turned to the wall. You gently turn one. It is heavier than expected. It's backed with leather and rimmed with iron. The front is painted, but the design is chipped and scarred. A deep gouge cuts across a faded heraldic beast. You run your thumb along the gouge. The wood is splintered but smooth with age. You return the shield to its place with a soft thump. Against the wood, in the center of the room, stands a large grinding wheel, its stone dark and scored. Bucket of water sits beneath it. You give the wheel's crank a tentative turn. It moves stiffly, and the mechanism emits a low, dry squeak that seems to protest the disturbance. The sound is lonely and echoes in the cold space, but the true voice of the armory is not in these occasional sounds. It is in the profound, humming silence that exists between them. It is a silence charged with potential energy. The restrained violence now completely at peace. The cold is not just an absence of heat. It is the temperature of preserved purpose. These instruments of conflict are hibernating. Their keen edges dream of parries and strikes. Their leather straps remember the grip of strong hands. Their metal remembers the shock of impact. But now, in the deep night, that purpose is suspended. Frozen in the cold air like a held breath, you find a low, three-legged stool used by the armorer and sit. The cold of the stone floor seeps up through the wood. You wrap your cloak tighter. From this seated position, the room seems even larger, the standing suits of armor more imposing. Yet there is no fear, only a deep, solemn respect. This room is a monument to the necessity of defense, to the long, quiet vigilance that makes the warmth of the hearth and the quiet of the library possible. Peace here is hard-won, and the cold is its guardian. You sit in the humming quiet, listening to the occasional sleepy ting of metal, feeling the dry cold on your face. The frantic pulse of imagined battle slows in your veins, replaced by the calm of the watchman after his shift, of the sword returned to its scabbard. The armory holds no threat, only the deep, frozen memory of protection. A lullaby written not in notes, but in the silent language of oiled steel and patiently waiting oak, singing of safety so absolute it has put its own teeth to bed. Leaving the metallic chill of the armory, you follow a slender, ascending passage that seems to glow with a different quality of darkness. The scent of oiled steel fades, replaced first by the simple smell of clean, cold stone, then by something subtler and sweeter. The faint powdery aroma of dried flowers and the clean, waxy perfume of beeswax. The air grows slightly warmer, not with fire, but with the lack of the deep, subterranean cold. Passage ends at a pair of tall, narrow doors. They're wood pale and smooth, carved with intricate, repeating patterns of vines and crosses, worn soft by time and touch. You push one gently. It swings inward without a sound, revealing the castle's chapel. The space is small, intimate, and breathtakingly still. It is a single tall room, its ceiling vaulting to a point high above. Stained glass windows, invisible from the outside in the dark, are now faintly illuminated by the moon, transforming them into mosaics of deep, jewel-toned shadows, cobalt blues, ruby reds, and emerald greens hanging in the air like frozen breath. No candles burn on the altar, but at the foot of a small stone statue of a saint in a niche, A single votive lamp flickers a tiny floating star of gold in a sea of blue-gray gloom. The silence here is not like the library as dense quiet or the armory as humming stillness. It is a silence that feels listened to. It is an attentive, receptive silence, as if the very air is holding space for prayers that have long since risen and dissolved. You step inside and the flagstones underfoot are smooth and even, worn not by marching feet but by generations of kneeling. You walk slowly down the short central aisle. Your footsteps are utterly silent, swallowed by the profound acoustic absorption of the space. The chapel feels like an air turned toward heaven. You reach the simple wooden altar rail and stop, resting your hands on the polished oak. The wood is cool and silken, then you hear it, not with your ears, but with your bones, a sound so low and constant it was part of the silence until you focused away. From it, it is a deep, subliminal hum, the resonant frequency of the stone itself, perhaps tuned by the vaulted architecture or the distant, muffled vibration of the wind across the chapel's steep roof. It is a single, unwavering note of peace and woven into that hum. If you listen with the softest part of your attention are the echoes of sound, not real sounds, but the memory of them imprinted on the stones. Ghostly, melodic trace of a plain-song chant, its last note hanging forever in the vault. The faint rustling whisper of woolen robes as someone long ago rose from their knees. The almost imagined scent of incense seems to trigger an auditory memory of a silver censer as chain tinking softly. You move to a side pew and sit. The bench is hard and unforgiving, designed not for comfort but for contemplation. You look up. The vaulted ceiling disappears into shadow, but the moon has shifted, and now a single beam of silver. Light slants through the central window, falling across the stone floor like a pathway of mercury. Millions of dust motes swirl in it, moving with a slow, graceful purpose as if performing a sacred, silent dance from a small, grated opening high on the wall of ventilation shaft a sliver of the outside night enters. It is not wind, but a barely perceptible current of air. It carries with it a faint, distant sound, the call of a night bird, three pure, descending notes that filter into the chapel's silence. Like a blessing from the sleeping world outside, the sound enters, resonates for a moment in the sacred space, and then is absorbed. Sanctified by the quiet, you close your eyes, the low hum of the stone fills your head. The imagined echoes of chant structure your breathing and hold out a slow, meditative rhythm. The fears and restless thoughts that sometimes flutter at the edges of consciousness settle here, their wings growing still. This room requires nothing of you, not understanding, not faith, not even focused thought. It simply offers a container for stillness, a geometry of peace. Time loses all meaning. You are not waiting for anything. You are not reflecting on the past or anticipating the future. You are simply present in the cool, scented, humming dark. The votive lamp's flame dances once, a tiny golden nod. The moonbeam on the floor creeps, inch by imperceptible inch. Your own heartbeat slows, its rhythm aligning with the stone's deep, subsonic pulse. This is the castle's soul, not the defensive might of the armory, nor the intellectual wealth of the library, nor the vital warmth of the hearth. This is the space reserved for the unspoken, the unanswered, the quietly hoped for. It is a chamber dedicated to the silence between heartbeats, to the peace that exists when all striving ceases. You sit within it, and the fortress around you with all its stone, history, and latent power feels not like a pile of rock, but like a prayer itself made physical, holding you in its eternal, quiet, humming grace. The chapel's resonant silence feels like a palpable substance clinging to your cloak as you step back into the passageway. But a new desire pulls at you, a need not for contained sanctity, but for open, unbounded space. You trace a different route through the castle's arteries, passing through a small guardroom empty but for a snoring hound, and find a simple ironclad door. You lift the heavy latch and a rush of cool, living air greets you, carrying the scent of damp soil and night-blooming flowers. You step out into the castle's inner courtyard and the world opens up. Above you is a vast expanse of velvety black sky, dusted with a breathtaking spray of stars, sharper and brighter here than you have ever seen them, unpolluted by any torch or candle. The moon, a perfect luminous crescent, hangs like a silver boat sailing the dark ocean of the heavens. The castle's high walls and towers frame this celestial view, creating a perfect, private rectangle of the cosmos, a well of sky you could drown in. You stand still, letting your eyes adjust. The courtyard is a wide expanse of packed earth and gravel, crisscrossed by worn stone paths. A single ancient well stands in the center, its wooden bucket hanging dark against the star field. Along the walls, herbs and small fruit trees grow in tidy plots. Their shapes soft blobs of deeper shadow. The air is fresher here, cooler, and carries a symphony of subtle living scents, the sharp mint from a nearby patch, the sweet perfume of night-scented stock, the rich loamy smell of the vegetable garden, and the mineral tang of water from the well. The soundscape is utterly different from the castle's interior. The oppressive silence is gone, replaced by a gentle, natural orchestra. The most constant sound is the soft, papery rustle of leaves. Not from wind, but from the night itself, the slow exhalation of plants, the minute shifting of stems as they cool. A tall poplar tree in one corner whispers secrets to itself, leaf brushing against leaf with a sound like a gentle, continuous sigh. From high on the battlement walkway above, you hear the soft, lonely hoot of an owl. It is not a hunting call, but a conversational one, a single, questioning note. Who? It echoes faintly off the stone before being swallowed by the immensity of the night. A moment later, from a different tower, comes an answer, a softer, shorter call, a dialogue of sentinels. You walk slowly along one of the stone paths, the gravel crunching softly under your boots, a sound that feels grounding and real. You stop by the well and peer over the low stone rim. Darkness looks back, but from its depths rises the cool, damp breath of groundwater and the faint, echoing plink of a single drop falling from the mossy lining into the invisible water far below. The sound is deep, resonant, and profoundly lonely. You turn your gaze upward again. The wind here is not the fierce torrent of the stairwell, but a gentle, capricious presence. It sighs through the crenellations of the high walls, creating a soft, fluting sound that rises and falls. It finds the gaps between tower and curtain wall and whistles a single, pure note before moving on. It carries with it distant sounds, the faint clank of the weather vane on the stable roof, the far-off murmur of the river in the valley beyond the castle walls, the indefinable, vast hum of the sleeping countryside. In a sheltered corner, you find a simple stone bench. Warmed slightly by the day's long-gone sun, you sit. The openness is both exhilarating and soothing. To the closeness of the stone chambers, the courtyard feels like a lungful of cool, clear air. You are outside, yet perfectly safe. The high walls are not a prison, but a frame, holding this perfect pocket of night for you alone. You watch the stars. They do not twinkle fiercely here, but burn with a steady, calm light. A satellite, a moving star made by human hands, tracks silently across the zenith, a tiny, slow-moving pinprick of light connecting one side of your stone frame to the other. The ordinary marvel of it, seen from within this ancient place, feels magical. The owl hoots again, closer now, a rustling. The herb garden suggests a hedgehog or a mouse going about its nightly business. The world is alive, peaceful, and continuing its ancient cycles within this stone embrace. The day burdens, the weight of history, the complexity of human ruins, they all seem to dissolve here under the impartial gaze of the moon and stars. You are not a lord or a servant, a traveler or a guardian. You are simply a living thing, breathing the same cool air as the mint, and the owl under the same timeless sky, momentarily held in the peaceful, open palm of the night. You lean back, the stone cold through your clothes, and let the vast, gentle quiet of the courtyard seep into you. It is a different kind of rest, not the cloistered sleep of interior rooms, but the wide-awake, conscious peace of being a small, grateful part of a vast, beautiful, and silent night. A narrow, arched door in the courtyard wall, almost hidden behind a climbing rose bush, now just a tangle of dark thorns, promises a return to height and stone. It is the entrance to a corner guard tower. The door is low and heavy, its iron handle cold enough to sting your palm. You pull it open and a rush of cooler, moving air escapes, carrying the dry scent of dust and ancient sun-baked stone from a long day now past. You enter at the tower's base, a small, circular room lit only by a single arrow slit, a steep, tightly spiraling staircase of worn stone. Steps is the only feature, winding up into utter darkness above. You place your hand on the central newel, a smooth column of cold granite, and begin to climb. The ascent is more strenuous than the earlier stairwell. The steps are higher, narrower, and seem to wind more tightly. The air grows colder with each revolution, and the sound of your breathing becomes louder in the confined space, echoing back at you from the curving wall just inches from your face. The only other sound is the soft, gritty scuff of your soles on stone and the occasional creak of a step settling under your weight. After what feels like 50 steps, a change. A faint gray light filters down from above, and the sound of wind grows from a whisper to a low, constant rush. You emerge onto a small, circular platform the guard room at the tower's top. It is a Spartan space, a stone bench built into the wall, a cold, empty brazier, and for tall, narrow arrow slits facing the four cardinal directions. The wind is the room's true occupant. It pours through the open slits, not in gusts, but in a continuous laminar flow. It creates a deep, resonant whoosh as it funnels through the narrow stone channels, a sound like a distant waterfall or the exhale of a slumbering giant. Standing in the center of the room, you are at the confluence of these streams of moving air. It tugs playfully at your hair and cloak, a cool, insistent presence that feels clean and wild after the still air below. You move to the northern slit and look out. The world is a monochrome tapestry of moonlit geometry. You can see the snaking, silver path of the river in the distant valley, the dark, humped shapes of sleeping hills, the occasional square of a far-off farmhouse. Utterly dark, the perspective is vast, humbling. This is what the guards saw for centuries. Not an invasion, but this, the profound, enduring peace of the land they watched over. The wind shifts and a new sound emerges. High above, on the tower's conical roof, a metal flagpole stands. The castle's banner is furled for the night, but a loose rope or a metal fitting taps rhythmically against the pole. Tap, 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 pause a tap, tap. It is a lonely, percussive beat against the wind's constant drone, the tower's own slow heartbeat. You sit on the stone bench, its surface cold and rough. The wind flows over and around you. From this height, the sounds of the night are refined and layered. You can hear the different voices of the wind, the low whoosh through the arrow slits, the higher, thinner whistle as it curls over the crenellations of the wall walk outside, and the occasional deep moan as it presses against the broad side of the tower itself. Beneath it all, if you listen past the wind, is the faintest, deepest sound of all, the subliminal hum of the massive stone structure rooted in the earth. A foundational note you feel more than hear. There is no danger here, only watchfulness turned inward. Become meditation. The tower is not on alert, it is at rest. Its strategic purpose is suspended, leaving only its physical reality, a perfect stone cylinder rising into the night. A conduit for wind and starlight. You are not a guard watching for foes. You are a witness to the calm of the watched-over world. A sudden, stronger gust funnels through the south slit, whipping around the room with a forceful whump that makes the old brazier rattle softly on its stand. The gust pauses and the wind returns to its steady sigh. The tapping on the roof continues its patient rhythm. You close your eyes not to shut out the view, but to better feel the tower's reality. The cold stone beneath you, the moving air on your face, the deep resonant sounds vibrating through the granite. This is the castle's furthest reach, its most exposed point. And yet, sitting here in the heart of the wind, you have never felt more secure. The tower has stood for centuries against storms and sieges. Tonight, it stands simply against the quiet night, and its strength offers not protection, but profound peace. You are at the pinnacle of the stone giant in its very crown. It holds you steady in the ceaseless, sighing breath of the high, dark, star-strewn sky. The tower's open air and rushing winds are a memory as you descend, not just to the courtyard level, but deeper. You find a low, rounded archway at the base of the kitchen's exterior wall, half hidden behind a stack of empty barrels. The air that exhales from this opening is several degrees colder still and carries a new, primal scent, wet stone, rich iron oxide like the smell of old blood, and the clean, sharp odor of deep groundwater, a set of steep, rough-hewn stone stairs descends into pitch blackness. You take the first step down, and the world of torchlight and moonlight vanishes. You are entering the castle's root system, its foundation. The air grows damp and heavy, pressing on your eardrums. The only light is a faint gray seepage from the archway above, which fades to nothing after 10 steps. You are forced to place one hand on the slick, cold wall to guide yourself, feeling the uneven texture of the bedrock into which the stairs are carved. The sound of your descent changes utterly, and no echoes here. The sounds are absorbed by the wet stone and the oppressive, dense air. Your footsteps are dull, wet thuds. Breathing sounds loud and close in your own head. After 20 steps, the stairs end and your foot finds level ground, a floor of hard-packed earth and gravel that crunches softly, differently than the courtyard gravel. You stop, letting your eyes strain against the absolute black. Slowly, Shapes resolve from the gloom, not from light, but from slight variations in texture of darkness. You are in a low, wide cavern, the castle's basement. Massive, rough pillars of natural stone hold up a ceiling lost. In shadow, the space feels ancient, older than the castle above. A secret chamber of the earth that the fortress merely sits upon, then you hear it. The defining sound of this place, water. Not the cheerful drip of the kitchen tap, but a slow, patient, eternal drip. Drip, drip. Each drop falls from the unseen ceiling into a shallow, unseen pool with a deep, resonant plunk that seems to vibrate in the cold marrow of your bones. Rhythm is slow, perhaps one drop every 5 seconds, a metronome for geological time. Between drips, the silence is so complete it has a weight, a pressure on your skin. You take a few cautious steps forward. Your foot brushes against something long and metallic on the floor. It moves with a soft, heavy clank and a series of lighter, higher-pitched chimes as links settle against one another. Old chains, discarded or forgotten, the sound is stark and lonely in the dripping dark. A few steps more, and your outstretched hand touches one of the stone pillars. It's not just cold. It is wet, beaded with condensation. You can feel the slow seep of groundwater through the living rock. You stand still, listening past the dripping. There are other sounds, so faint they live at the edge of perception. A soft, gritty scritch, perhaps sediment shifting in a distant crevice. Or the claws of a pale, blind creature that calls this perpetual night home. A deep, almost subauditory groan. The sound of thousands of tons of stone above you settling infinitesimally on their earthy foundations. The air itself seems to move, not as a draft, but as a slow, cold exhalation from the depths. Carrying with it the mineral scent of secrets the earth is not ready to give up. This is not a place of fear, but of profound stillness, the chaos of the surface world wind. Weather, human activity cannot reach here. This is a realm of pure process, of water carving stone over millennia, of weight and counter pressure, of eternal and patient, dripping dark. The dungeon's infamous purpose feels like a brief, sad footnote in this space's long history. Its primary reality is as a geological vault you find a low, flat rock near one of the dripping places and sit. Cold of the stone penetrates your clothes instantly. You wrap your arms around yourself. Not from fear, but from the sheer physicality of the chill. You listen to the drip, plunk, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plunk. You match your breathing to its rhythm. Inhale for 5 counts, hold. Exhale for 5. Your mind, which has been a gallery of images, firelight, books, stars, wind empties completely. There is nothing to see, only this slow, cold, resonant reality. The dripping water becomes a meditation. Each plunk is a moment being born and dying in the darkness. The echoes of the chain's movement have faded. The deep groans of the earth are too infrequent to track. There is only the drip, your breath, and the immense, peaceful weight of the world above and around you. You are at the very bottom of the human world, in a space that belongs more to the planet than to the people on its surface. And in that realization comes a strange, deep comfort. All the complexities of life, the castle's routines, your own journey are supported by this silent, wet, ancient dark. It is the foundation of all foundations, the ultimate quiet, the deep, cold, mothering peace from which all warmth and light temporarily rises and to which, eventually, it all returns. You sit in that truth in the dripping, resonant dark and feel not small, but profoundly connected to the slow, eternal heartbeat of the stone and the earth. Climbing back from the primordial dark of the dungeon feels like a slow rebirth into a world of form and space. The heavy, wet air lifts from your shoulders with each step upward, replaced by the familiar dry chill of the surface corridors. You move with a new sense of gravity, as if the deep earth's pull still lingers in your bones. Your path winds naturally back toward the castle's heart, and soon you find yourself standing once more at the arched entrance to the great hall. You pause at the threshold. The hall is transformed. The torches along the walls, which hours before burned with a steady, guttering flame, have now burned low. Most are mere embers clinging to their iron sconces, casting not light but a faint, pulsing orange glow that seems to breathe in the vast darkness. Few still hold tiny, defiant flames, but they are weak, their light reduced to small, trembling pools that barely reach the floor. Cavernous space is now a study in monochrome, deep blacks, charcoal grays, and the dying ember of embers. The immense silence of the hall has deepened into something absolute. The earlier hiss of torches is gone, replaced by an almost tangible quiet so profound it seems to press against your eardrums. You step inside, and your footsteps, which earlier echoed, are now swallowed instantly by the thick, sleeping silence. It is as if the hall itself is holding its breath. You walk slowly down the central aisle, your eyes adjusting to the near darkness. The high-vaulted ceiling is completely invisible, a black void. The long tables are mere darker smudges. Against the gray stone floor, the great hearth at the far end is a black maw, cold and silent. The only movement in the entire vast chamber comes from the few remaining flames. They do not dance, they quiver, their light trembling as if exhausted, casting fragile, quaking shadows that stretch and shrink rhythmically on the stone. You stop midway, turning slowly in place. The scale of the emptiness is both awe-inspiring and soothing. You are a single, tiny point of consciousness in a monumental sea of slumbering stone. The hall is not empty, it is full of spent energy. The echoes of the day's potential now realized and released, full of a peace that has been earned through centuries of use and rest. Then, a new sound, not from within, but from without, the wind, which sang in the tower inside in the courtyard, has found the hall. It does not enter, but presses against the high, narrow windows that deepen the thick walls. It produces a soft, low, mournful whistle, a single, pure note that seems to vibrate through the glass. In stone, it is not a loud sound, but in the absolute quiet, it is clear and resonant. A lonely melody from the outside world serenading the sleeping giant within. It rises, holds a trembling pitch, and then falls away, only to return a minute later. A recurring breath against the castle's skin. As you stand listening, another sound emerges. Unborn from the very materials of the hall, a soft, deep creak like a great tree settling. It comes from no specific direction, seeming to emanate from the aged oak of the roof beams or the massive central tables. Contracting in the night's coldest hour, a moment later, from a different quarter, a faint tink, like a tiny piece of mortar falling from between stones. High above, landing with a minuscule, crystalline sound on the floor somewhere in the dark. You move to the side of the hall and sit on the stone bench built into the wall. The same bench you occupied upon your arrival. The stone is cold, but the cold is familiar now, almost friendly. From here, you have a view down the length of the hall toward the dead hearth and the main entrance. Now just a rectangle of slightly less profound blackness. This is the hall at its most essential, stripped of activity, of light, of human presence. It reverts to its pure state, a vessel of space and silence. The trembling candle flame shadows become your companions, the distant wine whistle your music, the occasional creak and tink the hall's own slow, sleepy conversation with itself. The urgency of exploration is gone. The need to see, to understand, to move it has all been gently washed away by the successive layers of the castle's quiet. Here, in the heart of the sleeping fortress, there is nothing to do but be. The hall holds you in its vast, dark palm. The deep cold of the dungeon is a memory below. The wind of the tower is a story above. Here, in the middle, there is only this perfect, suspended equilibrium, a balance between stone and space, between memory and emptiness, held in the deep, silent, wine-whispered embrace of midnight. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to sink fully into the auditory landscape, the whistle, the creak, the profound, breathing silence between them, and feel yourself dissolving into the hall's ancient, patient dream. The profound, wine-whispered silence of the great hall lingers with you like a cloak as you retreat through a discreet tapestry-hidden door near the cold hearth. This passage is narrow, lined with smooth plaster, and slopes gently upward. After a dozen steps, it ends at a simple oak door, unadorned but solid. This is no public room. The air here is still, but carries a faint, personal scent-aged beeswax, the delicate, dry fragrance of lavender from a forgotten sachet, and the subtle, woody aroma of a particular oil used to polish fine wood. You turn the iron handle, its mechanism moving with a well-maintained, soft click, and enter the castle's private chamber. The room is modest in size, but rich in quiet comfort. Fire smaller than the solars, but equally alive, crackles in a neat granite fireplace. Its light the room's warm, pulsing soul. The flames are low and steady, casting a honeyed glow that paints the plaster walls in shades of gold and amber, making the room feel like the inside of a lantern. Furniture is sparse but fine. A heavy, dark wood desk sits beneath a shuttered window, its surface clear but for a single unlit candle in a silver holder, a tall, Narrow cabinet stands against one wall, its doors closed, and facing the fire, its back to you, is a high-wing armchair upholstered in deep burgundy leather, worn smooth and shiny at the armrests. You close the door softly behind you. The room's acoustics are intimate, absorbing sound. The dominant melody is the fire's gentle, rhythmic crackle pop hiss. It is a softer, drier sound than the larger hearths, the combustion of well-seasoned apple wood. Beneath it, a new sound emerges as you stand still, the soft, almost imperceptible tick of a long-case clock in the corner. Its pendulum swings behind a glass door. Its beat slow and stately, a patient heartbeat marking the passage of this private, suspended hour. You move further into the room. The floor is covered by a thick, woven rug, its geometric patterns faded to muted blues and reds. Your footsteps are utterly silent upon it. The air is warm, the fire's heat radiating evenly, banishing the castle's endemic chill from this one cherished space. You approach the armchair. As you draw near, you hear a faint, soft sound, a gentle, regular sigh of breathing. Not your own, slower, deeper. Someone is asleep in the chair, hidden by its high wings. You stop, not wanting to disturb. From this angle, you can see a hand resting on the chair's arm, an old hand, slender and lined. The fingers relaxed. A simple silver ring gleams dully in the firelight. The breath continues, a softened pause out, in perfect rhythm with the clock's ticking. It is the sound of profound, secure rest. This is the chamber's true resident, guardian of its peace, now surrendered to it completely. You retreat quietly to a small wooden stool placed near the desk. Out of direct line of sight from the chair, you sit. From here, you can observe the room without intrusion. The fire continues its gentle work. A log settles with a soft crump, sending a brief cascade of orange sparks up the flue. The clock ticks, the sleeper breathes. The sounds layer upon one another not as noise, but as the components of a perfect, self-contained harmony. Your gaze wanders the room. On the mantelpiece, a few simple objects, a smooth gray river stone, a framed miniature portrait too small to make out from here, pair of spectacles folded neatly on a velvet cloth. Each item seems to hold a silent story, a memory fossilized in object form. The shutters on the window are closed tight, but a thin blade of silvery moonlight cuts through the scene where they meet, painting a bright line on the dark floorboards. The atmosphere is one of deep, earned solitude. This is not the loneliness of the tower or the dungeon, but the rich, contented aloneness of a self that needs no audience. The room holds the essence of its occupant, quiet, orderly, introspective. The fire, the clock. Breathing sleeper, they create a feedback loop of tranquility. The warmth encourages rest. The rhythm of the clock and breath stabilizes the mind, and the rest deepens the sense of safety that allows such vulnerability. You sit on the stool, wrapped in the room's benevolent energy. The warmth seeps into your clothes and skin. The rhythmic sounds, the tick, the crackle. The breath begin to synchronize with your own heartbeat. Your thoughts, already slowed by the castle's progression, now drift to a near standstill. There is nothing to analyze here, nothing to achieve. You are a guest in someone else's sanctuary, and your only role is to respect its peace. The sleeper in the chair takes a deeper breath, lets out a long, soft sigh of contentment that merges with the fire's own sigh. The clock chimes once, a single, clear, silver note that hangs in the warm air before fading. It is not marking an hour, but a moment this moment. Perfect, encapsulated now of firelight, rhythmic sound, protected sleep, and quiet witness. You close your eyes. The darkness behind your lids is orange from the fray glow. The sounds become a lullaby without melody, a song of pure presence. In this private chamber, you understand the castle's final secret. Its grand halls and deep dungeons exist to protect small, precious pockets of warmth like this one. The stone, the history, the strength, all of it is in service to this, a single, quiet room where one person can breathe deeply, sleep soundly, and be utterly, completely at peace. Guarded by stone and silence and time itself, you breathe in unison with the sleeper. Presence now just another peaceful element in the chamber's perfect, ticking, crackling, breathing dream. Leaving the resonant peace of the private chamber feels like stepping from one dream into another, slightly deeper one. The corridor air is cool, but the memory of shared warmth, ticking clocks, and tranquil breath moves with you like an aura. Your feet know the way now, tracing a path of quiet stone that feels as familiar as the lines on your own palm. You pass the yawning black entrance to the kitchen corridor. The scent of old herbs and cold ashes, a brief whisper in the dark. Ed, illuminated by the last guttering tallow candle in a wall sconce, is your door. It is unremarkable solid oak, iron-bound, identical to a dozen others in this wing, yet it feels like the most significant threshold you will cross tonight. Your hand reaches for the latch. It's iron cold and smooth. You press the thumb piece down. It yields with a soft, metallic click that seems to echo your own heartbeat. You push, and the door swings inward on silent hinges. The room that greets you is a sanctuary within the sanctuary. It is modest, perhaps 12 paces by 10, with walls of plaster washed in a pale, uncertain color by the weak moonlight filtering through a single shuttered window. The air is still and holds a layered fragrance, the clean sun-dried scent of linen from the bed, the faint, sweet perfume of dried lavender from a sachet hanging on the bedpost, and beneath it all the subtle resinous aroma of the cedar chest at the foot of the bed. Floor is bare stone, but a thick, woven rug of deep blues and muted reds lies beside the bed, an island of softness and warmth. The room's focal point is the bed itself, a substantial frame of dark, aged oak carved with simple, worn geometric patterns. It is hung with curtains of heavy, undyed wool, currently tied back with cords to reveal a deep mattress and a mountain of bedding. A single sturdy candle in a pewter holder burns on a small table beside it, its flame the room's gentle, watchful sun. You enter fully and close the door behind you. The sound of the latch engaging is a soft, final thud. But that sound, the castle outside its halls, stairs, towers, and silent inhabitant ceases to be your concern. This cubicle of stone and wood is now your entire world. You stand for a moment, letting the room's potential settle around you. This is the journey's end, not just the physical journey from the gate, but the inward journey from alertness to drowsiness, from observation to surrender. A deep, pleasurable weariness held at bay by curiosity until now rises up in your bones like clear, cool water. You are here to sleep. Your first task is light and warmth. You cross to the small fireplace set in the wall opposite the bed. The hearth is clean, the great empty save for a neat pyramid of kindling twigs of dry birch and pine, topped with 2 split logs of seasoned oak. A small tinder box and a twist of dry straw sit on a hearthstone. You kneel, the stone cold through your trousers. The process is simple, methodical. You open the tinder box, place the straw in the grate, strike the flint. The first spark dies, the second catches. Tiny orange ember glowing in the dark straw. You lean close and blow gently. A tendril of smoke rises, then a small, bright flame leaps to life with a soft whoosh. You feed it twigs. They catch with a merry, crackling snap, pop, crackle, each sound sharp and distinct in the quiet room. You add one log, then the other. The fire establishes itself, the flames wrapping around the wood, their light immediately painting the plaster wall above in dancing patterns of orange and gold. The sound deepens from a crackle to a steady, contented roar hiss, the sound of heat being born. Warmth begins to pulse into the room, a tangible force pushing against the lingering nighttime chill. You rise, brushing grains of ash from your hands, and watch the fire claim its domain. This light is different from the candles. It is alive, moving, speaking in tongues of flame. With the hearth alive, you turn to the bed. This is the ceremony. You approach it not as furniture, but as an altar to rest. First, you place your hands on the topmost quilt. It is a heavy, patched thing of faded blue and white, filled with carded wool. You grasp its edges and give it a firm, loving shake. Then, fabric billows with a deep, soft warmth, releasing a cloud of dust motes that dance in the firelight, and the faint, sweet smell of lanolin and sunshine trapped in the wool. You smooth it meticulously over the feather mattress, your palms pressing out imaginary wrinkles, feeling the soft, yielding resistance beneath. The linen sheet underneath is cool and crisp, its hem hand-stitched. With tiny, perfect stitches, you straighten it, your fingertips tracing the cool, smooth fabric. Next, the pillow. You lift it from its place. It is heavier than expected, stuffed with goose down. You hold it to your chest for a moment, then give it several firm, percussive pats with the flat of your hand. Pat, pat, pat. Each impact produces a soft puff of air and a rustling whisper from within as the feathers shift and settle. You turn it, fluffing it from the sides, feeling it grow plumper in your hands. Finally, you place it back at the head of the bed, arranging it just so. Its plump, inviting curve is the final punctuation mark. You step back to survey your work. The bed is perfect. The quilts lie smooth and inviting. The pillow beckons. The fire crackles companionably, its light now merging with the candles to fill the room with a warm, dim, pulsing luminescence. The soundscape is complete, the fire's soft roar, and crackle the almost imperceptible hiss of the candle. The faint tick of the cooling metal fireplace grating from beyond the shuttered window. The muted distant sigh of the night wind. You have transformed the room from a cold stone cell into a cradle of warmth and softness. Every action, the strike of the flint, the shake of the quilt, the pat of the pillow was a deliberate stitch in weaving this nest. The days-long voyage through stone and shadow, through memory and silence, finds its purpose here, in the simple, profound human act of preparing for sleep, of building a small fortress of comfort against the vast quiet night within the greater fortress of stone. Preparation is complete. The surrender can begin. The ritual of preparation complete, you stand in the center of your chamber, suspended between the active world and the world of dreams. The bed awaits, a landscape of soft promises. Fire murmurs its warm, crackling lullaby. The candle's steady flame casts a circle of golden constancy. Yet, before you yield, another presence in the room calls for your attention, not within the stone, but speaking through it. You turn from the hearth and walk to the room's single window. The shutters are made of stout, dark wood, fastened with an iron latch. You reach out and slide the latch back. It moves with a dry, metallic scrape. You then grasp the iron handles, their metal cold enough to make your fingers ache for a second. You pull, the shutters swing inward with a soft, groaning protest of old wood and stiff hinges, revealing not glass, but a thick, imperfect pane of blown glass set in a lead lattice. The world outside is a study in monochrome, painted in shades of charcoal ink and silver by the light of a now high moon. But it is not the sight that captivates you first, it is the breath. As the shutters open, the night enters, not as an invasion, but as a gentle infiltration. A stream of cool, fresh air flows over the sill, across your hands and face. It is the soft wind, the same wind that whistled in the tower inside in the courtyard, now visiting you in your most private hour. It carries the clean, complex scent of the sleeping world, damp grass from the courtyard, the distant mineral tang of the river, the sweet decay of autumn leaves from the woods beyond the walls, and the indefinable crisp emptiness of a vast sky. You lean your hands on the cold stone of the windowsill and listen. The wind here is not the roaring river of the high tower, nor the tuneful whistle of the chapel shaft. Here, at this sheltered aperture, it is a conversationalist. It flows past the corner of the tower outside, creating a soft, consistent zhuzh like the sound of a distant sea heard in a shell. It is a white noise of the purest kind, a sonic blanket that seems to soften all other sounds. Occasionally, the breeze strengthens for a moment, not a gust, but a sigh. It presses against the leaded glass, making the imperfect pane vibrate slightly with a faint crystalline buzz. It finds the narrow gap where the window frame meets the stone and sings a single, clear, high note, a tiny, fluting wee that lasts for 2 seconds before fading back into the general zhuzh. Then it relaxes again, returning to its gentle, sighing flow. You look out. From this second-floor vantage point, you see the moonlit courtyard below, the dark shapes of the herb gardens, the black rectangle of the well. Castle's outer wall rises beyond, its battlements sharp against the starry sky. The world is utterly still, no movement but the slow drift of clouds across the moon's face. No light, but the silver celestial glow and the few remaining torch glow embers from the distant gatehouse. The wind is the only proof that the world is still alive, still breathing in its sleep. You become aware of another sound, one the wind conducts, the soft, rhythmic flap, flap, flap of a loose piece of fabric, perhaps a forgotten shirt on a washing line, or a pennant on a lower roof somewhere in the courtyard below. Its tempo is lazy, unhurried, a slow beat perfectly sensed with the wind's gentle pressure. Standing there, the cool air washing over you, you feel a perfect equilibrium. The fire at your back radiates warmth towards you. The wind at your face offers coolness. You're on the delicate border between two elements, cradled in their gentle conflict. The warmth promises deep, cocoon sleep. The cool wind promises clarity, spaciousness, connection to the wide night. Together, they create a perfect balance that seems to still the very blood in your veins. The sound of the wind is not an interruption, it is an invitation. It invites your mind to let go, to drift out on that steady stream of air, to be carried away from the concerns of the room. The castle, the self, its constant zhuzh is a gentle eraser, smoothing away the last scribbled thoughts of the day. The occasional flute note is a call to a different kind of attention, not focused, but diffuse, open, receptive. You take one last deep breath of the night air, letting its coolness flood your lungs and clear the last cobwebs of wakefulness. Then slowly, you close the shutters. The wind's voice is muted, but not silenced. It becomes a whisper against the wood, a faint reassuring presence just beyond the barrier. You latch the shutters with a soft click. The room is sealed again. But it is no longer a closed cell. It is a haven gently ventilated by the memory and the muffled song of the soft night wind. The wind that now lives in the room with you, in the cool patch of air by the window and in the lingering scent of distant fields and freedom, ready to weave itself into the tapestry of your dreams. Then a wine song from the window lingers in your mind as you turn from the shuttered pane, carrying with it a memory of open space and flowing air. Yet, there's one more murmur of water you have not yet visited, and its nocturnal guides a sound more delicate than the dungeon-esque deep drip, more structured than the random night droplets. You leave the bedchamber, the door closing with a soft final click behind you. Retrace your steps not upwards or downwards, but outwards, back to the courtyard. The castle's interior passages feel different now. Their silence a familiar companion rather than a mystery. You pass through the small guardroom, the hound now silent in deeper sleep, and push open the ironclad door to the night. The courtyard greets you with its vast ceiling of stars, but your destination is specific. In the far corner, away from the well and the herb gardens, stands the fountain. It is not grand or ornate, but a simple three-tiered structure of pale gray limestone built around a natural spring that has never run dry. By day, it is a place of practical purpose for drawing washing water for watering horses. By night, it transforms into the castle's liquid heart, beating a soft, eternal rhythm. You approach it along a flagstone path, the gravel crunching softly underfoot. The sound of the fountain reaches you before you see it. Clearly a constant, gentle, multi-layered babble. As you draw nearer, the components separate. There is the soft, continuous trickle of water overflowing from the top bowl into the middle one, a smoother, quieter pour as it cascades from the middle to the large, shallow basin at the bottom, and within that basin the calm, circular lap of water rippling outward from the central inflow to kiss the stone edges. You reach the fountain's rim and place your hands on the cool, damp stone. The limestone is beaded with moisture, smooth and cold under your palms. The water in the bottom basin is black in the moonlight, but it captures the stars and the slim crescent moon, shattering them into 1,000 shimmering fragments that dance with every ripple. You lean closer. The air here is noticeably cooler and carries a clean ozonic scent, the smell of water aerated by its own fall of wet stone and of the faint green fragrance of the moss that grows in the perpetual damp shade on the fountain's north side. You listen, closing your eyes to let the sound become your entire world. The trickle-pour lap creates a circular, never-ending melody. It is random yet predictable, chaotic yet deeply ordered by gravity and geometry. It is a sound that has played through every night of the castle's existence, through storms and sieges, through peace and festival, unchanged and unchanging. It is a sound that marks time not in hours, but in the endless flow of moments, each droplet following the same path as the one before, yet each journey unique. As you attune to the water's song, other night sounds weave themselves into the tapestry. From the damp earth near the fountain's base comes the soft, rhythmic chirp of a single cricket, its song amplified by the stone bowl beside it. It is not the full chorus of earlier in the evening, but a solo performance, clear and metallic. Occasionally, a night insect, a moth, or a beetle buzzes past your ear, its wings a tiny, frantic hum that appears and disappears in an instant. You sit on the wide, flat stone bench that curves around the fountain's base. The stone is cold, but the constant, gentle mist from the splashing water dusts your skin with a fine, cool spray. Breeze, which you first met at your window, plays here too. It skims across the surface of the basin, occasionally pushing the water's flow slightly off course, making the trickle splatter against the rim with a light, percussive patter before it finds its way again. The wind also stirs the leaves of a small willow tree planted nearby for shade, its long, slender leaves brushing against each other with a sound like a soft, whispered secret. Combination is hypnotic. The water's constant flow provides the bass line. The cricket's chirp marks a slow tempo. The willow's whisper adds harmonic texture. The occasional insect buzz is a grace note. You are not just hearing the fountain. You are hearing the courtyard's ecosystem at its most peaceful and interconnected. The The water feeds the moss and the willow, which in turn harbor the insects. But you're hunted by the creature that now adds its own voice's soft, questioning scream from a small owl perched invisibly in the tower above, drawn by the cricket's call. This is not a place of grand solitude like the tower or profound stillness like the chapel. It is a place of gentle, ongoing life. The fountain does not sleep. It works, it flows, it sings its liquid song through the darkest hours, sustaining the small, quiet life around it and providing a focal point for the night's serene energy. Sitting here, you feel no need to think, to remember, or to anticipate. You are simply a witness to a process as old as the hills from which the spring emerges. The water's journey from deep aquifer to open air, from darkness to moonlight. It is your own journey from wakefulness towards sleep, a natural, inevitable, flowing release. The sound washes over you through you, carrying with it the coolness of the stone, the freshness of the mist and the deep, flowing piece of something that simply is forever and without effort, a liquid lullaby. In the star-dusted heart of the silent castle yard, the liquid lullaby of the fountain fades to a soft background murmur. As you rise from the stone bench, your clothes slightly damp with its cool mist, the courtyard's open sky feels vast above, but a new earthy scent tugs at your attention, the scent of dry hay, warm animal musk, and oiled leather. It drifts from an arched gateway in the southern wall, leading to the outer bailey and the castle stables. You are not drawn to enter the busy stable yard itself, but to listen to it from a distance, to observe its nocturnal rest from the threshold of the inner courtyard. You walk to the gateway, a broad, tunnel-like passage through the thick curtain wall. You stop just inside its mouth, leaning against the cool, rough stone of the archway. From here, you have a framed view of the stable block across the outer yard, a long, low building of timber and stone, its doors closed, its windows dark. The moon casts sharp shadows from its roof, painting stripes of black and silver across the hard-packed earth. The air here is still, but carries the distinct, comforting smells of the stable like a gentle exhalation. At first, you hear nothing but the general sigh of the night. You wait, allowing your hearing to stretch and focus. Then the sounds begin to emerge, soft and layered, each one a note in the stable's sleeping breath. First is a soft, rhythmic thump. It is not loud, but deep and resonant, felt in the ground as much as heard. It is the sound of a heavy hoof, a draft horse, or a placid cart horse shifting its weight in its stall, its foot landing gently on the thick bed of straw. Thump, a pause of several seconds. Thump, it is the slow, patient beat of a large, sleeping heart. Then a different sound, a long, deep, rustling crunch shush, followed by a gentle, moist choo-choo-choo. A horse, awake or in a light doze, is pulling a mouthful of hay from its rack, chewing it with slow, contented deliberation. The hay rustles as it's torn, the chewing is steady and peaceful. It is the sound of simple satisfaction of a creature safe, fed, and at rest. A moment later, from a different part of the building, comes a softer noise, a quiet, blowing snort. It is the sound of a horse clearing its nostrils, a casual, unconscious action of an animal at ease. It is followed by a low, rumbling sigh, the exhalation of a large, warm body settling deeper into its bedding. You close your eyes to hear better. Now you detect the subtler sounds of the stable's structure, the faint creak of a wooden beam as the building adjusts to the night's coolness, the soft rattle of a loose chain on a hook, stirred by a draft under a door, a delicate skid of perhaps a mouse in the hayloft or a piece of chaff falling from a rafter. Then the most distinctive sound, a soft, muffled whicker. It is not a whinny or a call, but a gentle, conversational noise made deep in a horse's throat, a sound of dreaming or quiet communication. With its neighbor, it is a tender, almost whispered sound filled with a calm animal intelligence. It is answered a moment later by a similar, even softer sound from another stall, a brief, quiet dialogue in the dark. Beyond the stable, the outer bailey is silent. The smithy is cold and dark. Kennels are quiet. The guards on the outer walls are distant, invisible specks. The stable is the only pocket of warm, breathing life in this fortified expanse. Its sounds are muted by walls and distance, filtered through the still night air. To reach you is gentle, reassuring, proof of life continuing in its simplest, most peaceful form. The smells and sounds combine into a powerful sense of sanctuary. This is where the castle's strength rests, not just in its stone, but in the living creatures that give it purpose. The horses sleep, their powerful bodies relaxed, their instincts calm in the knowledge of safety, their slow movements, their quiet chewing. Their soft sounds are a lullaby of domesticated peace. They have worked, carried, pulled, and born riders through the day. Now, in the deep night, they do nothing but exist. Their quiet vitality a steady pulse beneath the castle's silent stone carapace. You stand in the gateway for a long time, listening to the distant thump of a hoof, the steady crunch of hay, the occasional soft whicker. There is no urgency, no demand, only the deep, animal peace of creatures who know their place in the world and are content within it. The sounds drift across the moonlit yard, mingling with the scent of hay and horse, and wash over you like a warm, slow wave. They are the final grounding notes before sleep, a reminder that the castle is not a monument of dead stone, but a living organism, breathing softly through the warm lungs of its stables, its heart beating in the steady, distant thump, a resting hoof in the deep, sweet-smelling dark. The earthy, comforting sounds of the stables fade into a gentle memory as you turn from the arched gateway. The inner courtyard feels familiar now, a quiet hub you have circled all night. But a final curiosity pulls at you not to enter another room, but to touch the castle's outermost skin, to stand where stone meets the limitless night. You choose a narrow, unassuming door set into the base of the northeastern curtain wall, a door used by sentries to access the wall walk. It is unlocked, its iron ring cold in your hand. You pull, and with a gritty scrape of wood on stone, it opens onto a steep, straight flight of stone steps, illuminated by slits no wider than your hand. You climb, the air grows colder with each step, a dry, exposure cold that bites differently than the dungeon's damp or the hall's still chill. After 30 steps, you emerge onto the wall walk, the broad, crenellated pathway that runs along the top of the castle's outer defenses. The world opens up in a way that even the tower could not offer. Here, there is no roof, no enclosing cylinder of stone, only a parapet to your left, and on your right, a sheer drop to the moonlit ground far below. The sky is no longer a framed rectangle, but an immense stone canopy from horizon to horizon, thick with stars, the Milky Way a pale, luminous river flowing directly overhead. The wind greets you immediately. It is not the gentle courtyard breeze or the tuneful tower whistle. This is the true, high, unobstructed wind of the open night. It flows across the land in a steady, powerful stream, pressing against your chest and face with a constant, tangible force. It roars in your ears, a deep, rushing whoosh that is the dominant, all-encompassing sound. But within that roar, you train your ear to listen for the specifics. The wind speaks to the stone in a language of pressure and resistance. As it strikes the blunt face of the wall, it creates a low, shuddering hum, a vibration you can feel through the soles of your boots when it funnels through the gaps of the crenellations, the alternating high merlins, and low embrasures. It produces a series of softer, fluting notes, a ghostly choir singing on a single, changing chord. Wee-oo-ya. Each gap has a slightly different size, a different note. You walk slowly along the wall walk, your hand trailing along the rough, cold stone of the parapet. Your footsteps are inaudible, swallowed by the wind's mighty breath. Ahead, a corner tower looms, a darker silhouette against the star field. As you approach it, the sound changes. The wind, forced to split around the cylindrical tower, creates a turbulent, swirling eddy. The roar becomes a chaotic, multi-directional howl, filled with pops and sighs as pockets of air collapse and reform. It is exhilarating, a taste of the raw power against which these walls were built to stand. You reach the corner tower and duck into its open doorway, seeking momentary respite. Inside the tower's base at this level, it is little more than a rounded room with arrow slits. The wind still screams outside, but here it is reduced to a high, keening whistle through the narrow stone channels of the slits. You look out one. The view is a slim slice of the moonlit countryside, the land falling away into darkness. From this isolated perch, you hear another sound, carried on the wind from a great distance, the lonely, triple-noted call of a nightior from the woods beyond the fields. Chir, chir, chir. It is a haunting, ancient sound, a thread of wild life woven into the gale. Leaving the tower, you continue along the wall. Your sense of exposure is total, yet so is your sense of security. The stone underfoot is solid, unmoving after centuries of such winds. This walkway was built for vigilance, for scanning the horizon for approaching danger. Tonight, there is no danger, only the vast, sleeping land and the roaring, star-dusted sky. The castle's purpose feels pure. Here, not to imprison, but to enable this very experience, to allow one to stand at the very edge of safety and look out upon the magnificent, untamed night, protected enough to appreciate its beauty without fear. You stop at an embrasure and look straight down. The ground is a dark, Blurry patchwork far below, a loose stone dislodged by your foot, clatters over the edge. You do not hear it hit the ground. The wind stills the sound instantly. You are in a realm of air and sound and stone, disconnected from the earth. You turn and look back along the length of the wall walk, a pale ribbon under the stars, connecting tower to tower. Your own journey through the castle feels mirrored in this final walk from the enclosed, intimate interior to the open, boundless exterior. The wind roars, the stone hums, the distant night yard calls. This is the castle's final word, a declaration of its presence in the landscape. A stone fist held gently open to the sky, offering not defiance, but a steady roaring. Mind-swept peace to anyone who walks its high, lonely, magnificent perimeter in the deep, starry heart of the night. The roaring wind and star-scattered expanse of the wall walk cling to you like a thrilling, cool memory as you descend the tight stairwell back into the castle's embrace. The transition is stark, from the boundless, rushing night to the profound, insulated silence of the thick stone walls. Your ears ring slightly in the new quiet, adjusting. Your path leads you inevitably, naturally, back to the beginning, to the great hall. It feels right to return here, to complete the circle as the night itself nears its completion. You enter through the same arched doorway you first passed through hours ago. The hall is profoundly changed. The torches that once burned with a guttering persistence have finally given up their ghosts. Their iron sconces now hold only blackened stubs and cold gray ash. The few embers that remain in the great hearth have faded to invisibility. The only light now is the moonlight. It streams in through the high, narrow windows on the eastern wall, transformed into long, slanting pillars of solid silver that cut through the vast darkness, illuminating swirling galaxies of dust and painting geometric shapes on the distant flagstones. The hall is a cathedral of shadows and cold silver light. The silence is absolute, yet it feels different from the dense quiet of the dungeon or the attentive hush of the chapel. This is the silence of a great space emptying itself of the day's energy, a silence of conclusion. You walk slowly down the central aisle, your footsteps the only sound, each one a soft, distinct click that travels into the black vault above and does not return. The immense trestle tables are long, dark islands in the silver-streaked gloom. The high chair on the dais is just a larger shadow. You move to the center of the hall, where the largest pillar of moonlight falls, and stand within it. The light is cool on your face, a silent baptism. You look up. The vaulted ceiling is invisible, a black void, but the moonbeams seem to hold it up. Silver columns supporting the night. You stand still, and the hall's final sounds reveal themselves, not sounds of life, but sounds of material settling into its deepest rest. First, a soft, deep creak from the far end of the hall. It is not the sharp sound of moving wood, but the long, slow, tectonic groan of a massive oak roof being contracting in the night's coldest hour. It speaks of immense weight, of patience, of time measured in seasons, not seconds. A minute later, from a shadowed corner comes a faint, crystalline tink. It is the sound of a fragment of dried mortar or a tiny piece of stone, its cohesion finally lost after centuries, detaching from a joint high above and falling to shatter on the stone floor. The sound is small, clean, and final, but the dominant sound is the wind, now heard from within. It is no longer the roaring river of the wall walk, but a distant, mournful song. It presses against the high windows, and though the glass does not rattle, the pressure creates a sustained, low, vibrating hum, and the stone surrounds a deep, foundational note that you feel in your chest. Occasionally, a stronger gust finds a minuscule flaw, a crack, or a poor seal, and whistles a single, pure, fleeting note that slices through the hum before vanishing. The hall is breathing with the outside world, a slow, deep, resonant breath. You walk to the great, cold hearth and sit on the stone bench beside it, the same bench where you first rested upon entering the castle. The stone is familiar. It's cold a comfort. From here, you look down the moonlit avenue of the hall toward the main doors. The silver light has moved since you first stood here. The pattern on the floor has shifted. Time has passed. The castle has turned slightly on its axis, and the moon has journeyed across the sky. This is the hall at its most essential and most beautiful. Stripped of fire, of torchlight, of human presence and purpose, it is simply space defined by stone and moonlight. Its function is gone, leaving only its form, and in that form is a peace so vast it is humbling. Groans of the beams are its exhalations. The falling mortar is its shedding of old skin. The wind's hum is its connection to the living world outside its walls. All the rooms you visited, the warm solar, the silent library, the ticking private chamber, the dripping dungeon, the windy tower feel like dreams within the dream of this great, sleeping space. There are chambers in the castle's heart, but this hall is its body, its vast, quiet, moonlit corporeal form. Sitting here, you feel no need to be anywhere else to see anything more. The journey is over. The exploration is complete. All that remains is to be present in this magnificent, silent, silver and shadow conclusion, to listen to the great stone body settle and sigh around you, holding you safely in its monumental, dreaming stillness as the night deepens towards its final, quiet hour. The vast, moonlit silence of the great hall has settled into your bones like a final, calming truth. The circle is complete. You have traveled from the threshold to the heart, from the heights to the depths, and returned to where you began, only to find it transformed by the night's quiet revelations. Deep, gentle pull now guides you not to see more, but to cease seeing. Not to listen further, but to let the sounds become the fabric of your dreams. You rise from the stone bench, its cold familiar against your palms one last time, and walk with slow, unhurried steps back through the labyrinth of silent corridors. Your destination is no longer a mystery, it is a certainty. The bedchamber. You push open the oak door. The room receives you like a sigh. The fire in the hearth has burned down to a deep bed of glowing embers, pulsating softly with a hypnotic, ruby light. Candle on the bedside table has melted to a stub, its flame smaller but steady, casting a tiny, unwavering golden circle on the wooden tabletop. The room is warm, the air still and scented with the last whispers of lavender and the comforting, woody smell of smoldering oak. The heavy wool curtains around the bed frame hang motionless. The carefully prepared bed awaits, its quilt smooth, its pillow plump in the combined glow of ember and candlelight. You close the door. The latch clicks with a soft final sound. You are here. The castle outside with all its stones, its echoes, its sleeping inhabitants, and its long, storied history now exists to guard this single, quiet room. You move through the familiar rituals of ending a day. You remove your outer cloak, draping it over the chair by the fire, the fabric whispering as it settles. You sit on the edge of the bed to remove your boots, each one landing on the rug with a soft, dull thud. The simple physical acts feel sacred, each one a deliberate step away from wakefulness. You lie back. The feather mattress accepts your weight with a gentle, sighing compression. Cradling you perfectly, you pull the heavy quilts up over yourself. Their weight is immense and comforting, a gentle pressure that seems to anchor you to the bed, to the room, to this moment. You nestle your head into the pillow. It yields, embracing the shape of your skull with a soft, rustling sound as the down shifts. The linen pillowcase is cool against your cheek. Now you are still. The room soundscape, held at bay by emotion, comes forward to claim you. The fire is no longer a crackling presence, but a breathing one. From the hearth comes a soft, rhythmic hiss whisper as the last gases escape the embers, and an occasional faint pop as a tiny pocket of sap explodes in a final, silent spark deep within the ash. It is a sound of gentle dissolution, of warmth relinquishing its last active hold on the world. Candle flame, in its final hour, burns with a quiet intensity. If you listen very closely, you can hear the almost imperceptible fizz of the wax vaporizing at the wick's tip. It is a tiny, steady thread of sound, a sonic representation of light itself from beyond the shuttered window. The world is a muted symphony. The wind, your companion all night, is now a distant, steady sigh of white noise that washes over the stone walls like a gentle tide, far, far away. The fountain's trickle is just a memory of a sound, felt more than heard. There is a profound sense of everything settling. The castle stones have finished their nightly contraction. The beams have grown their last. The distant animals in the stable are still. The only movement is the slow, inevitable consumption of wax and wood, and the even slower journey of the moon across the sky, its light now a faint blue-gray glow around the edges of the shutters. Your breathing deepens, slows. It begins to synchronize with the pulse of the room, with the soft hiss of the embers, with the distant sigh of the wind. Your thoughts, which have been gentle observers all night, now loosen their cohesion. Images of the evening drift through your mind, not as memories, but as impressions. The cool touch of the gate's iron ring, the dancing torch shadows in the hall, the smell of old paper, the deep hum of the chapel stone, the roaring wind on the wall walk. They blur, blend, and begin to transform, becoming the raw material of dreams. The boundary between yourself and the castle softens. The weight of the quotes feels like the gentle pressure of the stone walls. The The rhythm of your breath matches the castle's own slow respiration. You are not just in the castle, you are of it. Its peace is your peace. Its ancient, silent strength holds you as securely as the feather bed. The last flicker of conscious awareness watches the embers pulsing light play on the ceiling, then lets go. Candle flame wavers once, as if in farewell, and steadies. You drift. The sounds, the hiss, the sigh, the faint FSS no longer exist as separate entities. They merge into a single, soft, seamless blanket of quiet sound. The darkness behind your eyelids is warm and deep. The castle, having shown you all its quiet wonders, its hidden whispers. This monumental piece now performs its final and greatest magic. It cradles you into a deep, dreamless, and utterly secure sleep. You have arrived, you have explored, and now, in the gentle, creaking, sighing, glowing heart of the stone giant, you finally, completely, and peacefully fall asleep.